Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the Parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV.
Hello, welcome to World Anchors Network, a Parrot TV program. I'm Dustin Pickering, your noble and honest host. Today we have ZM Wise, who is a wonderful friend of mine and a colleague. He is a proud native from northwest suburbs of Chicago, poet, vocalist, lyricist, songwriter, essayist, occasional playwright, seldom screenwriter, co-editor and arts activist, writing since his first steps as a child. He was selected to be a performer in the Word Around Town tour in 2013, a Houston citywide tour. He is co-owner and co-editor of our own Houston-based Transcendent Zero Press, an independent publishing house for poetry that produces an international quarterly journal known as Harbinger Asylum. More on that later. The journal was nominated Best Poetry Journal in 2013 at the National Poetry Awards. He is the author of 8 books and chapbooks of published poetry, as well as a play. In mid-2023, Mr. Wise collaborated with well-known musician A.J. Kaufman to produce Cheluo, a collaborative split album where they both played instruments, sang, and composed lyrics. Other than the aforementioned books and album, his poems, lyrics, essays, and book reviews have been published in a lot of journals, various journals, magazines, and anthologies. His motto that keeps him going is "Poetry lives and long live the arts." Mr. Wise will be sure to spread that message and the love of the arts, making sure it remains vibrant for the rest of his days and beyond. Besides poetry and other forms of writing, his other passions and interests include playing a few instruments, creative and professional voice acting, creating visual art, cooking, baking, fitness, and reading. So let's welcome Mr. ZM Wise to the show. Thanks for joining us today, Mr. ZM Wise. You're looking a little shady there.
Yeah, I'm usually a much brighter person than this.
I hear there's a little bit of a light deficit in your corner there.
Yeah, light was flickering.
Yeah, not a problem. It'll be a nice effect to add to the general spirit of the environment.
At least we have the nice Cyclops light watching over me.
Yeah, that's a good tendency. You got the one eye, the big eye, So tell us about Cheluo. What is Cheluo? Well, give us an idea of what this word means, where you found out about it, and the process that went into your collaboration with A.J. Kaufman.
Oof. Well, first of all, I want to start out by saying A.J. Kaufman's probably one of the most brilliant musicians I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. I discovered his work about 5 years ago. I was looking for demos and outtakes to listen to, just of a new artist. If I'm crazy about an artist, I want to listen to everything, including the unreleased tracks. So I found a compilation of his demos and outtakes, and I'm like, I've never heard anything like this before. And after listening to that album, I instantly became, as they say, a fanboy. And I started listening to song after song, album after album. I do have 2 favorite songs by him called The King of Kreutzberg and Hippie, which is a title track from one of his more recent albums. And then I started making a SoundCloud and uploading individual songs of my own. And from out of nowhere, he follows me. It's insane. He follows me, and we become instant kindred spirits. We have this great artistic connection, and proud to call him a dear friend of mine. And definitely one of just a few musicians I would collaborate with. It's not that I don't play well with others. I just I am more of a solo creator. But we really do think with one I suppose musical brain. We have very similar musical influences, but I will say this about him: he's more of a fully fledged musician. I'm still experimenting with certain instruments. Vocals are my primary focus, but we made it work. So he asked if I wanted to make an album together, and of course I emailed as calmly as possible. Yes, of course, I'd be really interested, but really I'm like so that was it was quite
Giddy.
he told me to come up with the title, and I wanted to find a word that could not be translated into English, and then I started learning about this amazing poet, Irma Pineda, and she released a book full of works that were in various indigenous languages of Mexico, and there's this track that's called Chulel, and Chulel couldn't even be translated into Spanish. It's amazing. It's a Mayan language. It's the language specifically. It's called Tzotzil, and it means being linked to one's soul. And I thought, okay, that's as infinite as I can think of, and it was perfect. So, don't know if she'll ever watch this, but Irma Pineda, this album, I couldn't have done it without you. And of course, AJ picked out the perfect artwork. We created separate tracks. Because I was limited to a Chromebook at the time, I wasn't able to be as involved with audio production. I only had a basic cut, and I couldn't even splice with the tool that I had, just cut. It was wonderful. Both of us agreed that we were proud of it. He himself has, in between other collaborations and solo work, he's released over 50 albums. I absolutely love that about him, and it's how I am. I can never stop creating. It's I'm not going to go as far as say it's a drug. Well, okay, you know what? I'll say it. It's a drug. If I can't create at least once a day, or maybe even once every other day, I get a little twitchy. So working on this album together, it was just outstanding. Yeah.
That's an interesting story. Is Chulu, was that more of a religious concept, or do you know? Is it a religious, or is it like when you say connected to one's soul, is it like love, or like a love type thing, or is it more like a religious concept of soul body?
I thought it was more ambiguous. Chulel is I took it as more of an overview of a spiritual concept. For me personally, the album, it was related to a few things that resonated with me. With that one, I think that transcends the concept of soulmate. And because I've been finding myself over the years really latching onto my soul, this journey just made it more worthwhile. And plus, I think with the musical partnership between AJ and I think it describes that as well. Just how well we coalesce, and so it's kind of a tribute to our creative links. But I believe it could be. I suppose religious. There are a few different articles on it, but when covering the word itself, it's very very terse. The other choice I had was Chuchumi. I found that one interesting, and that's from the Mayan language Zapotec, and it means staring into the void. I thought that was quite powerful too, but not as powerful. Not as it didn't resonate as much as Chulel.
And that's a fun word too. It's interesting, chulel. It has a nice flow to it. And so, what role did you play? And you said you didn't have as much of the instrumentation, but what was your main focus on with this album, chulel?
Well, since we were pretty much producing separate tracks, it was an opportunity to exhibit instrumentation as well as vocalization. And there are some instruments I know how to play better than others, and others I would still call it experimentation. I played various instruments. Harmonica, rain stick is one of my favorites. A stereotypical poet's instrument, bongos. And I also did get to bring out a few instruments that I'm still learning and experimenting with: ukulele, guitar, and keyboard.
Oh, fun!
But AJ insisted I did a bang up job with my instrumentation. That gave me confidence. So I'm like, okay, I'm not totally helpless. I know that a mutual friend and colleague, Drew, I'll never forget what he said about me and my guitar playing. It's like, your fingers know what to do. Your fingers know where they should be. You just gotta finish learning those chords.
Right. You're kind of taking it from from like what do you call a beginner standpoint, where you're just kind of playing it what your natural tendency would flow into, and it happens to be that your hands know what to do. What position, and it's interesting how that works. When I first learned to play guitar, for instance, I was able to just like strum. I was very good at strumming, and I was not so adept with my other hand to fretting, but I was pretty good with strumming. And people pointed out that I could strum very light, I could strum very heavy, I could strum fast, slow, whatever. So I was very good at rhythm.
Yeah.
Do you have a strength or so that in music strength or anything that you like to focus on as far as your own performances?
No, I mean, I probably feel the most confident about harmonica.
Okay.
I've even played it in front of my favorite musician, Al Stewart. Hopefully I didn't ruin it for him, but I have been learning here and there with guitar, and on the album there are a few tracks where it's featured. I felt, at least, even though I'm still quite a novice, I'm still learning. I found certain, I guess, chord patterns, probably not even the term, but I suppose certain strategies that worked, and that it wasn't out of tune. And you'll be able to hear them clearly, if not already. And don't let this discourage you from not listening to the album. Oh, he can't play, darn it.
Right.
But no, I'm actually kind of proud of myself. There was a lot of strumming. I will say this.
Okay.
But at the same time, there were certain patterns, like just very basic melodies I concocted. But in a way, I'm kind of like Ian Curtis with the guitar. Like, he was somewhat involved, but for me, it's mainly vocals, and it's my primary focus. If you all don't know me already, and you've been seeing my little snippets of acapella pieces on here, I can only upload to 1 minute. Thanks, Instagram. My voice is meant for softer pieces. I can exude a louder voice here and there. The moments are scattered throughout each composition. It's when I attempt to do so for an entire piece, that's when disaster ensues. But as Donovan said, the softer you sing, the louder you're heard. So no disrespect to musicians who put, I suppose, a soul with a much larger volume out into the wild. But this is where I am, and I quite like it this way. I've received quite a few compliments on my voice. I'm still developing, still learning, It's not over yet, but I hope I did well. let's just put it that way.
So, in terms of the poetry and the writing of the poetry, do you find that there were themes that emerged as you're writing in this Chalul and the album? Did you find that there was a certain kind of like lyrical approach maybe that came out more so than others that seemed to fit the music medium?
So with Chulel, I would say that it's difficult to say. I will say that one thing in common is that all but 2 pieces have been published somewhere as poems, which I feel much safer about. And in fact, AJ published one of them on his website, and he really liked the piece. And it's called Gold Forest. It's a track that's on there, and I was deeply surprised that he liked it. This was a song that it was one of my first actual songs, and I came up with this basic somber melody, and the lyrics are very straightforward-ish, but at the same time, I asked him why, like, out of the others, why do you like this one? Why is this one your favorite? He's like, he has a very Jim Morrison type of vibe. I'm like,
There you go.
And Jim Morrison's one of many poets who's influenced me and my work over the years. And listening to it and reading back the lyrics, I'm like, yeah, I think he's right. I mean, maybe, perhaps there is some depth to it after all. But
you don't know your own work immediacy. It's like you look at it and it's like you don't care for it. It's like you're just giving it the surface look, and then later on you dig into it when someone else has looked at it and your eyes develop a different color, and like you look at it and you're like,
insane.
Wow, I didn't know I said that in that way or something. It's like,
I love the different perspectives. This is why with my lyrical content or just poetic content, if I want you to know what it means from the very beginning, I promise you I will give you every detail. But 98% of the time, that's going to be your job as the listener, as the reader, as the viewer. You hold more power in that sense. I just hold the pen. I just place the microphone right near my mouth, and I mean,
let it flow out.
I'll stand by my work, of course, but at the same time, I mean, it's not my job to let you know what it means. I think if anything, it's more fun to concoct your own meaning. It may be more significant than my own. Who knows? And I've received that before. Some people have. I think this piece of yours means this, and my mind will be blown. I'm like, I didn't even catch that. That's brilliant. I mean, art is subjective for a reason. It really is.
It's about the experience of the person. I mean, the viewer and the artist collaborate in a way to develop the meaning. So what I'm going to do right now, we're going to go to a quote unquote commercial break where I'm going to play track number 3 from Chalul, and that is Flyer Poem 38, I believe is the number. And I really like this track. I really like this. This was my favorite track from the entire album, which you can find on Bandcamp. Anybody watching right now, you can find Chalul on Bandcamp. I'm going to play this track for a commercial break, and you guys can just sit back and enjoy and relax to this wonderful psychedelic sound.
Namaskaram Ramdaram Namaskaram Ramdaram Namaskaram Ramdaram Namaskaram Ram Duram. A message for you sent by post. The yogi feels not his full strength. The mantra in quick succession falls to a hushed repetition. Etchings inscribed on the mandala. Namaskaram Randaram. We lay our heads against Tibetan sand. Dedication washed away by accomplishments. Hard to manifest syllables during Kundalini ritual poses. Rising libido. Lowering spiritual inhibition. Heightened intuition. Powerless destiny. Satnam Ramdaram.
It's on loop. It's getting loopy on me. A loopy little track there.
So
Okay.
it was. So that was one of.
About that. What
Yeah,
is,
so
what
that-
is the meaning of that?
So those were. Yeah, no.
Okay, don't tell us the meaning. I guess we'll figure it out. I mean,
I will t-
process
I will-
then? Let's
I
go
will tell
about
you
the
that.
process. How
Yeah,
does that work?
I will
How does
tell-
that come together?
Yeah, so I will tell you, for two or three tracks, he sent me these instrumentals that he created that I could
Mhm.
place my vocals to. So two of my 7 tracks on the album are spoken word. That was one of them.
Mhm.
And then there's one that's a complete instrumental, and that instrumental was actually published itself on this industrial music podcast under the non-industrial section. That was pretty cool. And then 4 tracks are traditional songs. So this spoken word piece, I wanted to look through his instrumentals to see which one would fit, and this one was just perfect. It seemed to fit. A glove on a hand, and the reason why it's called Flyer Poem and it's numbered.
Mhm.
I used to work at this bank, and wasn't too crazy about it, to be perfectly honest with you. Part of my job was to cut these flyers into fourths and hand out these mini flyers. And I promised not to tell you the story about the time where I handed a flyer to a customer and he tore it up and threw it in my face. But and you know what? I don't blame him.
Right.
Yeah. And so there were flyers of 4 different colors. And there are times when I am sick of the traditional notebook and I want another surface of parchment to pretty much expel my creative thoughts. And this surface, I was inspired by wonderful Washington, D.C. poet BGK, where he would write on napkins. Because
Interesting.
because of the way I write, I would press too hard on the napkin. It just wouldn't work. So I took these flyers home, and I took 1 stack of each color, and I wrote
Talk about a bank robbery.
books of them. Right?
I stole flyers from a bank.
I stole flyers. Yeah, they had thousands.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't gonna.
They would never notice.
They would never notice. They took my dignity.
Fly away, flyers.
And I yeah, it was a very like unstructured process. The only pieces that had any structure were the pieces that would turn into songs, and they had two sides. They had two sides to them. 98% of the flyers would just have one side because on the front is the logo, and it was perfect to create these condensed little compositions. And this one,
it's interesting. So you had the space constraint that kind of allowed you to experiment a little bit with what was being said and how it was being said.
Oh, exactly. I enjoyed the process deeply, and I still have one more book of flyer pieces to write. I noticed that, I mean, without, I noticed that just about every book of flyer poems has been written within 3 years of each other. The last one was 5, but I found that to be kind of interesting. But I might release a book someday of all 4 of them. Maybe I'll separate them. Who knows? I've had
bank robbery.
I've had flyer poems published over the years. In fact, Harbinger Asylum,
yes,
before I started working for Harbinger Asylum, published probably one of my absolute favorite pieces ever. And flyer poem 72, and yeah, that one meant a great deal to me. Now this one I was influenced by a guru. That's all I'll say. I'm not going to explain the meaning.
Okay.
Sorry. But
yes, it's part of the process of learning. I mean, it's
part of the fun.
The mystery is the fun part. It's like,
yes,
it's just like, those metaphysical questions that you have in life. It's like if someone just hands you the answers, like, you're kind of like, I don't have the question anymore. What do I do now?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Just like the biggest metaphysical question of all. If you give a mouse a cookie and then finish it, fill in the blank. So
would you like to share some of your current work with us? Do a performance maybe for us?
Certainly. So
right
my current book is The Nightmare Mask, published by Weasel Press, who's published about half of my bibliography at this point. I trust Weasel Press with my life. Love them to death. And this, I will say that since this has more of a somewhat linear theme, about 6 years ago, I had a series, a sequence of nightmares. And hold on, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Oh, you're okay.
I just think you put you in the center focus. So
oh, okay.
I'm here. Don't worry. I am available.
So, had a sequence of nightmares. Each one kept getting worse.
Wow.
All in the span of, I would say, 1 or 2 months. I had about 9 to 10 nightmares, and it was just all of it just kept spiraling out of control. One of the, I'll just give one example. The entire dream was comprised of me standing on the edge of a cliff in broad daylight, high above the clouds. I felt like I was just maybe a few thousand yards away from Olympus. And all of a sudden I hear this large flapping of wings. And the sound seems to be rising. I'm like, okay, the hell is this? And it was this demonic goblin-like henchman wearing this armor, carrying this sword, and flapped its wings, hovered towards me, and pointed the sword at me and said, "We're coming for you." And then I woke up and just kept spiraling out of control. And then after the nightmares, I experienced a bout of sleep paralysis. For those of you who think sleep paralysis is cool, the concept is fascinating, but I hope and pray no one ever experiences this. It's one of the ultimate feelings of helplessness, that you have no control. The only person I know who's been able to fight it successfully was my father. When he had it, he worked his fingers to the bone to thrash his arm about. And the one cure to sleep paralysis besides time is being able to move some part of your body if you're lucky. And then after sleep paralysis, I experienced something that's a bit more, well, even as it says on the back of the book, something more sinister. And I daren't say it out loud in the show because a portion of people might think and I'm going to let you discover that for yourself. Buy yours today. The Nightmare Mask. Yes. And so I will read section. So I wrote it as a series of poems, and then there's also a brief story, and I'm not even sure if this would count as microfiction. This is like micro fiction. It's just it's just one page, and but I'll read you the prelude in the second section. So I kept the original poems, and I rewrote them as more lyrical verse. And lyrically, I had quite a few influences, like the epic piece "Supper's Ready" by the progressive rock band Genesis, and then perhaps a touch of "Celebration of the Lizard" by the Doors. And so here's the prelude, the second section. It hangs in the shop window. It has been here since time immemorial, made from cult sorcery in the shallows, written in the latest editorial. Everything. It looks at everything, nothing. It hears absolutely nothing. Rambling from the heart, tell us something. Daemon facium, it says on the tag. Underneath it, fanged creature scowls on the flag, representing the underrealm's crest. It marks human blood, the source of all conquests. Every face it has kissed, driven mad with images of the other worlds, gouged out their own Oedipal eyes. The rest of their bodies imploded and unfurled. They all start out as saintly beings, common folk without priorities. It is a disastrous downfall, with death being administered by devilish authority. No need to ask. His storm cloud wall was his pride. Along comes a wise yet stubborn man with a reluctant warning woman at his side, and the nightmare mask that they buy. Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
great performance. Great. Excellent.
Thank you very much a lot.
Should give us one more. We have about 7 minutes into the program, so give us another one.
All right. In that case, I will fetch my current notebook. Give you a sneak peek. The only time I'll ever share drafts with anyone is through a performance. And I will say, so the two pieces of mine that aren't published lyrically, like on the album, would be Angel Was an Hourglass and Angel Was an Hourglass, the reprise. And I did include them in my current long form project that I'm working on. So eventually they will be published. It's just a matter of time. Okay, I have one, and it was inspired by the French poet Guillaume. I hope I'm saying his first name correctly, Guillaume Apollinaire, and an excerpt from his piece. Well, the title is anyway. The graveyard is a beautiful garden. By Baphomet's tongue, proclamations, release is a goddess's name in the wilderness of the bestiary, hands disembodied by the weight of the stone skipping eons, passing by the storm of words, mouthed by the division between joy and subliminal madness. Querida, I release the Chiroptera into the denseness of the steel night, making week's pilgrimages up Sisyphean hills. To you, love is what I make. For you, love is what I take. Hurricane of pages, hemorrhages, ebony at the chime of a dawn clock's vocal cords, servitude under emerald metal thumb. She has tasted hunger at its most visceral. She has drained thirst of its life essence. In the belly of the little horn, the seven-headed Hydra revelation, forced to consume Promethean repetition. And to you, love is what I make, and for you, hate is what I forsake. The graveyard is a beautiful garden where the restless lovers play, where the wandering flesh decays. Warmth and water from the darkening goblets to your muted lips left you in lapses of sacrificial rapture. Impetuosity leaves shadowed marks, sacred geometry on your constellation skin, a starling birthed from sensationalized flashes, a casualty of future war, a futile war, a formality of pending peace. To you, love is what I make. For you, love is what I cannot shake. The soil of our existence is the harvest breeding our forestian roots, the death of prayer, the resurrection of humility. Your vessel is a passport to the cosmos. Your cosmos is your infinite arena. Your arena is your confined mentality. Your mentality is a weapon worth relinquishing. And to you, love was what I made. And for you, I left the stars in retrograde. The graveyard is a beautiful garden where the restless lovers sing, where wandering flesh seeks new souls to which they cling. Thank y'all.
Wonderful. Great performance. And hats off to Apollinaire.
Yes. Hell yes. Hats off to Apollinaire. Brilliant poet.
Yeah. Excellent. So you could give us about a good 30 seconds to 50 seconds worth of wisdom, for writers out there. Anything you want to say to our fellow writers watching today?
Absolutely. The way you're able to let yourself go, the best way I see, forget you have the readership, forget you have an audience, let your thoughts go. Worry about pleasing the crowd either later or never. Just lose yourself in the midst of creation. You're going to surprise yourself. Channel other energies, and you won't even recognize what you have just composed. It's an amazing thing. It's what Carlos Santana calls supersonic music. And also don't be afraid to unleash your inner thoughts. Everyone has a voice. Everyone deserves to be heard. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. So you want to share any thank yous or shout outs at the end of the program here?
AJ Kaufman, couldn't have done this without you. Thank you so much for somehow cosmically discovering me. And thank you for being a dear friend and collaborator. And we're going to create an album next year as well. So be on the lookout for that. Thank you, right. Dustin. Thank you. Thank you very much for this entire show. Thank you to World Inkers for existing, to all these brilliant creators showing their faces and explaining the process behind their creative work. And thank you to the very essence of creation itself. Mm-hmm. Again, it's my life. It's my source of oxygen, whether writing, singing, or whatnot. I'm nothing without it. So thank you to all.
Well, thank you, ZM, for being on the show, and we'll keep a lookout and look at Bandcamp for Cholul. And this has been a wonderful program from World Inkers Network, a Parrot TV program. And I'm Dustin Pickering. If you want to donate to our program, we have a PayPal handle. I'll pull it up here just a second. PayPal.me/NY-Parrot. That's our PayPal donation handle. If you would like to share a little extra money that you have in your pocket, I'm sure you all have money that you want to let go of and just throw out the window to the arts. And we need it, so you don't give it to us now. Yes, I made ZM laugh. That in and of itself is worth about $25 of your money. So please send it our way immediately right now. And if you want to be on the show, you can contact me, Dustin Pickering, at publication.worldinkers@gmail.com. Don't forget the dot. It's a small thing, but it matters because then our email won't go through. It won't come to me. It'll go to that magic snuff box in the universe that no one knows exists yet. If you don't send it with the dot, the publication.worldinkers@gmail.com, and send a bio, a headshot, and a couple of sample works. Get us acquainted with your writing and your style and what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you're a musician, if you're a creative writer of some sort, working on your first novel, your later novels. Maybe you've written 5 novels. You want to talk about all 5. Good luck. Find someone else. I don't want to hear about your stupid novels. Just kidding. I would love to hear about your novels and your poetry and your music and anything you're doing. If you're a scholar working in creative fields, we want to hear from you. So get in touch with us. And thanks again to ZM and all the family at ZM's family household. Thanks for watching, and have an excellent afternoon. And be sure to get some writing done, or some research, or some reading of some kind. And we'll be back on this program Tuesday with Carlo Parcelli and his musician friend Frederick will be on here from Sweden to discuss their collaboration, Transgressive Poetics. Be here at 2:00 p.m., 9 p.m. Swedish time, and we'll definitely be in touch with you guys on that show. So remember, you can leave comments for us during the program. Please subscribe to our channel immediately before we all die. And thank you so much. Have an excellent afternoon. Get some writing done right now, or I will come after you.
Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Parrot TV. Listen to the people. Listen to humanity. Listen to the parrot.
We have returned for your money. Please give it to us now. Thank you. Have a nice